Welcome back, everyone, to Beat the Game. This is Steve, and it's time to talk about some justice strategies. That's right, we're going to talk about the third strategy that I think is very viable for the justice aspect. So again, if you guys like these videos, please put a little like, and please write something in the comments about what you think about this strategy, how you've played it, if you've tried this, or if this is something new and you're like, oh man, I never thought about this. So that's always why we do these videos. As content creators, we just want to make sure that it's valid and people are actually using this information, and the time that we're putting into these videos is actually worth it. So please always just let us know what you think. All right, why am I saying us? Yeah, any content creator, if you're watching these videos, leave a comment. It's always nice to see that people are interacting, even though it's not live. It's always fun to see like in the little comments. It makes us smile. All right, now moving on. All right, so let's talk about this third justice strategy. Now this one's a little special. I call this one the focus strategy. So these are two things, and it can be interpreted in many different ways because you're going to be focusing on either your hero's basic stats, or you're going to be focusing on your hero's lack of something. So again, it's a really fun strategy, and it plays differently depending on what hero you're going to choose for to play with. Now, so what is the upside of this? Well, the fun thing is the focus strategy is really going to enhance what your hero is already doing well, or it's going to compensate what your hero is lacking in. Okay, so that's how we're going to be playing this focus strategy. Now, for heroes that have a low thwart, so if any heroes that has 0, Hulk, and then or 1, so these heroes are going to be focusing more on cheap events to really help them, control the threat. But heroes that have a thwart of 2, 3, or even 4, because yeah, it is possible now with those heroes that can have up to 4. It's pretty crazy. And then we're going to be focusing on like what we can do with some of the justice cards that enhance the rewards for being a good thwarter. All right. So is there any downside to this strategy? There's not really a downside, because you're really going to be rounding up your hero in ways that are going to be interesting. So if your hero is already a strong thwarter, you're going to be adding some of those attack events that are going to help with the damage. So you can as a hero can concentrate on removing threat, or you can actually play it like, okay, my hero is a good thwarter, but he's also a good attacker. So you know what? Maybe I'll put a little bit of everything, and then I'll be able to build and be a very versatile hero. But most of the time you want to focus. And again, if you're going to be playing this in solo, it's very, very efficient. If you're going to be playing this type of focus strategy, I'm going to make after we talk about solo play, I'm going to make another 5 minutes and just talk about multiplayer focus, which is really, really different and is very, very powerful for 3-4 player games. All right, so let's keep going with this strategy. So like I said, there's not really any downside. The upside is you're actually focusing on what your hero can do well, or you're compensating on what your hero does not so well. All right, so then we'll see. So let's take a look at some of the heroes actually that kind of play well into this focus strategy. It's going to be hard to choose a top 5 because most heroes can do really, really good things. So I'm going to just pick 5 heroes I actually really enjoy playing this type of focus strategy with and has had amazing results. Okay, so now let's look at some of the heroes that I really enjoy. And it's very hard, again, I'm just putting these heroes because I think they work really, really well into the strategy of focus, and for different reasons. And again, I think every hero can be exceptional with this strategy. So this is just basically preference at this point, and it's not anywhere a tier list. because, you know, I hate tier lists. But some that I think are really, really efficient in this focus strategy is Ms. Marvel. Just the fact that she can recur these really low-cost events, and then she can amplify them and make them bigger and stronger and then recur them. I think she just plays so well into this focus strategy and is super, super versatile. So very, very cool. Another one, I think another one is Gamora. She was in the top one on the last one, but again, there's no reason Gamora is not on the top here because, again, once you're playing toward events, you're removing threat. So solo Justice Gamora is probably one of the best decks you can build with Gamora. It's just so good. It's just so efficient, and it deals tons of damage. It removes threat. If you haven't seen the game versus Ultron I played, it wasn't even funny. Like, Ultron was just like, what the hell is happening to me? So yeah, you can watch last week's video of what was it, Vigilante Justice in action. It was just like, Gamora was just a beast. Another character, again, because she can kind of be versatile as well. Like, she can do thwart events, deal damage, remove threat. It's just so good. Another great one is Captain America. Another great versatile character here that can really focus on removing threat and then using some of the threat events to deal some damage. Again, so solid, this character. Again, here's Groot. Groot is, and again, I was debating between Groot and Spider-Man, but I think Groot's just a little bit better here. So Groot can just focus on defending himself and then using these cheap justice events to remove the threat, and after that, use his own personal cards to deal a lot of damage with those root stomps and those I am Groots. So again, super solid character. And then Venom, same thing. Venom can use the cheap events. Or he can use his multi-gun. I think his kit is just very, very powerful to be able to control threat. Venom Injustice is another amazing character for this type of strategy. And again, this is not taking away from anybody else. Aside from Hulk, which Hulk is more of permanent justice, and Adam Warlock, who can't really play this, I think every other character in this game can really, really shine. It doesn't even matter what stats they have. And again, so if you have a character like Black Panther, well, then once you have his equipment, you're all good. And he has tons of resources to play. Rocket, if you haven't seen Brant play Rocket Justice, well, in a multiplayer game, he is just like a bomb. All right, and he's super fun to watch. Even Ant-Man Justice, even a Hawkeye with some Justice strategy can be really good. Drax, again, with these little events, and then you're just focusing on attacking with Drax and using like these really cheap events to remove some of the threat and then keep yourself into the fight. Again, it's hard to say which one is my favorite. I can tell you which one is not my favorite. Valkyrie. She's always going to be my black sheep now. I think she's the one character I just don't like, and it's hard for me to admit that because I really don't like her design. It baffled me how much it was a big miss for me on this one. And again, I think it's just missing the interactions with that Death Glow that's really irking me. But enough about Valkyrie. This is not about Valkyrie. We don't talk about Valkyrie. So again, all these characters can really, really play well into this focus strategy. And again, it's just depending on what your character does. So it's hard to say like, oh, we're just going to play some games with different characters. So you can kind of see when I do my in action, I'll show you like characters that have a bigger attack, and then focus on the events or focusing on the hero's threat removal. So there's always these ways to play this differently. So let's look at some of the best cards in this strategy for the focus strategy. And I just dropped one on the floor. So I'm just going to press pause, 2 seconds. So one of the craziest cards, I think, and the most efficient cards in this for this strategy is Lay Down the Law. You can't go wrong. After you change forms, if you paid a mental, you remove 3 threat. So it's 1 for 3, and if you paid with a mental, the kicker cost, it's 1 for 4. It's just so good. 1 for 4 threat is amazing, and the reason why I love this with Ms. Marvel is basically 1 for 4. shrink it so it's 1 for 6, exhaust Ms. Marvel, bring it back, play it again, and basically it's 1 for 10. So it's just so good. So if you have her suit and then the Sense of Justice, basically all you're doing is just putting this card out, bringing back, putting that card out, and then you just remove 10 threat, and you can do that over and over and over. Oh my god, just by flipping back and forth. So again, that's just crazy. And again, all these Ant-Man, Spectrum, Vision, all these characters that change form, that have some type of form change, is just so good. It's I think one of the best Justice cards in this game. The next one I think is Multitasking. Again, 1 for possibly 4 threat that you can divide, and in solo play, that is just super powerful. Just remember, guys, if there is a Crisis icon, you won't be able to remove 2 from the Crisis and then 2 because it's one thing at the same time. So multitasking, I'm 99% sure because it says remove 2 threat from a scheme, but if you paid with using a mental, remove 2 threat from a different scheme. So I don't know if the wording says that I could remove, let's say I have a Crisis with 2 and then 2 on the main. This is where I'm still ambiguous, but I think it's all one event. So for me, I just say, like, no, if there's a Crisis, I can't remove from the Crisis and the main. But if there's 2 side schemes, I can remove from 2 side schemes. But again, I might be proven wrong, and if somebody thinks differently, please let me know in the comments. But that's how I've been playing it. If there's a Crisis, I'm stuck. All right. Another amazing card here is Clear the Area. Again, this is all these cheap Justice cards that don't cost a lot and have these really cool effects. Removing the last threat, especially if you're playing solo and you're playing before Guardians of the Galaxy campaign, or even Thanos, the Mad Titan Shadow campaign. Most of the schemes start with 1 or 2 threat, or even no threat. But you want to have at least 1 on there. So, but to clear the area, it just, there you go, bam, remove the threat, poof, draw a card. It's a card that replaces itself. So for me, it's a very solid card, and it's cheap, but it's only 1 for 2. So that's why it's not like the best card. The other one I really, really enjoy, and it's again for these heroes that have a better thwarting, that are stronger at thwarting. Or it can even be a hero that doesn't have that much, even if at 1. The fact that it gives this +2 is pretty good. And then when your character makes a basic thwart, it gets +2. And if you remove all the threat, you get to heal. Healing, especially if you're going to be staying in hero form a lot, to keep the threat under control, is very, very good. So that's something that you don't want to pass by. And then the other one, I think in the top 5 cards for this type of strategy, Justice Served. It's a permanent card that you put on, and if you need to ready, because let's say you have a minion that you need to, to get rid of, and also you want to remove the threat. Well, remove the threat, finish off the whatever's on the main or a side scheme, and then get rid of Justice Served, get ready, and then attack the minion, and then or attack the boss. And you're in a good position. So that's why I really, really enjoy these cards as my top picks for this type of strategy. All right. Let's take a look at some of the other cards that make the cut and that are also very efficient. All right, some of the other cards that I really enjoy for this strategy, one way or another. Again, in a solo, one way or another should... unless you're just playing the statewide emergency, which just are brutal, I think you should definitely be running 3 one ways or another, or 2 one ways or another for sure in a deck, just to be able to go draw and then have some stuff to do with your threat removal. There's always these easy side schemes, so one way or another is just basically a no-brainer for me in a solo game. Here I really like Foiled. Foiled is not a thwart card, but it's just if you're in Alter Ego and the villain schemes, or even if you're in hero form and the villain schemes, Foiled is alright. He schemes with +2. Well, it's 0 for 2 threat. It can be 0 for 4. It could be 0 for 1. Like I said, it's never a bad card. And again, with certain heroes like Iron Man or like Thor or Captain Marvel, it's a lightning resource, so it's always going to be used properly. Again, this is only for a couple of characters right now, but Zone of Silence, 1 for 4. That's why it's not in the top, because it's only for like 3 characters right now that are wizards. or Mystics, whatever. Yeah, Zone of Silence, again, 1 for 4 is super good. I love as well Turn the Tide, because again, if your hero is going to be using his basic actions to thwart, having some cards that can deal some damage is just really, really important. Again, all these Guardian cards, being able to confuse the villain for 1 damage, just a no-brainer. It lets you go back to Alter Ego and just chill. And aside from that, obviously, if we're going to be putting side schemes, we're going to be putting some skilled investigators. It's cheap, it's fun, and it's cost efficient. We're going to be taking care of at least 1 minion or 2 minions during the game. So there you go. That's 1, 2, 3 threat removal. It's easy. It's easy to put on the table. It's easy to discard to caught off guard. But Interrogation Room, never go wrong. And then finally, like a Sense of Justice. So these are like really cheap cards, again, for that type of strategy. You don't need a lot more than this. Yes, you could be adding some beat cops and stuff like that, but if you want to keep your deck relatively low cost, I think you should focus on some of these cards, because again, just with what you have here, you have enough to really, really dominate in a solo strategy. Let's take a look at some of the basic cards that can actually help us do this strategy well. But before we go to basics, I did forget about the allies. Again, these 2-cost allies like Quake, Wiccan, and Eros, I think are just fantastic for this strategy. Again, it's cheap, it's a blocker, and it can really help you in a pinch. Either deal some damage, remove some threat. So these guys, for a focus strategy, are definitely the 3 allies you want to be putting in your deck. Alright, so now let's take a look at some of the basic cards. If you're an Avenger, this is probably a great card to be putting in, especially if you're going to be running Wiccan and Quake, which are both Avengers, and if you have an ally that's an Avenger as well. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it just, like, keep your ally, you know, use him once and then just keep him in play. Again, if you're going to be running this, and if you're an Avenger, you can always just be running Blade. Blade is just basically a 1-cost ally that's there in a case of emergency, but is a perfect target for Earth's Mightiest Heroes. For me, I think this is a super well combo for any of the Avenger characters. And then finally, assess the situation. Again, not too many basics in this that we need in these strategies. Again, we're not running meditations. We don't really need it because most of our cards are very, very cheap. So it makes a lot of sense. So assess the situation. Very, very efficient. Again, if you have some of these like, oh, wait, I don't have anything to do with these cards. I paid for my stuff. Well, here, let's just go get a bigger hand size for the next turn and see how more efficient we can be. So replacing a card for another card, it doesn't seem like it's good, but it gives you some more explosive turns when you do get them. So, and if you haven't seen that, you could always watch some of my Wasp videos. I think it's dominate the effects, the assess, where I just abuse this card and I have hand sizes of 8 and 9. You're like, what? How is this possible? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. With Wasp, yeah, that card is really, really broken. So that is it for the solo strategy. Now let's take a look at the focus and how we want to play focus with some of those heroes that are just broken in multiplayer Justice, that can just basically control so much of the threat. It's not even funny. All right, let's take a look at these heroes in multiplayer. All right, so let's take a look at those heroes that can actually dominate in threat removal, either through actions or just through events. There's nothing, if you haven't seen our guys, just, or even me, or some of our, or Brian, or I don't know if Brian ever played her in Justice, but Ms. Marvel Justice can easily handle a 3, sometimes even a 4-player game when she is 100% focused on Justice. There is nothing that she can't do. Just think about the lay down the law, which she flips forms, she exhausts, she has the shrink 10. I can't even remember if I already talked about this because it's so good. And then, or multitasking, for 1, remove 8 threat from 2 schemes. I like 4 and 4. Again, it's dependent on the shrink, but the fact that she could easily get that in early game and just dominate threat removal on that is crazy. Another character that's often underestimated for threat removal and control, Rocket Raccoon. If you haven't seen Brant playing Rocket in Justice, I think it's his second favorite, or maybe it's his favorite aspect in Justice. Rocket Justice is just so good because with the lay down the laws, with the civic duties, not lay down the laws, with the what's it called, I got a plan and civic duties, he can remove, and if you have a CITT, he can remove like 15, 20, 25 threat in a turn. It is just crazy, just by exhausting, ready, exhaust, ready. So there's all these super crazy combos. Same thing for what's his face, Quicksilver and Captain America. These characters can just really dominate threat control, but almost on their own, even in a 3 or 4 player game. Spectrum, same thing, kind of this, and then Captain Marvel and Black Panther just have so much economy in their card kits, is they can just pay for all these big events that really remove a lot of threat. So these are basically some of the top heroes. Again, I'm not saying that none of the other ones can do it. Again, Vision, Wasp, like they all can go up to like these crazy amounts, and if they focus on what, but I think these are just like the more obvious choices. And then obviously you can just play with everyone else. All right, let's look at some of these, the big events that you definitely want to be running when you are playing multiplayer Justice. Problem solvers, 100% in a multiplayer game. If you're not running a problem solvers, you are missing out, because it is just such an amazing card for multiplayer. There could be 5 side schemes out, and then all of a sudden, oh, what? You have a thwart of 3, you have a thwart of 4. Okay, well, let's, we have a Guardian. Okay, we have this guy, and I can thwart for 4. You can thwart for how much? For 3? Cool. Just imagine Rocket with a civic duty who's thwarting for 5. I got a plan, and then you use problem solvers, and then 5 plus, even if it's an ally with 2, 7 threat off of everything. It's crazy. It's so easy because Rocket can get to 4 thwart. There's a bunch of characters that can get to 4 thwart. And just adding even 6 off of everything, it's insane. It's just insane value. So I think by far the best Justice multiplayer card. You can't go wrong. Crisis Averted is another good card that you want to be playing. The fact that it removes all of the it removes 6 threat and avoids crisis if you played with a mental is just so good. After that, you have the classics like For Justice, which again, it's 2 for 4, but it's still pretty decent because you want to be focusing on those types of cards. If you have an aerial character, 3 for 5 that you can divide is not bad at all. So again, as you can see, there's like a bit of a pattern here, removing threat in different ways. I also like Impede. It's funny that, you know, most people are like, Impede, it's not that good. It's 2 for 3 and it's off the main. But the fact that you can play it over again, it's not the best, but it's still a pretty decent card. Alongside with running interference, again, depending on stage numbers. These 2 I kind of put there. But I think these big event cards is what you want to be running in a multiplayer focus deck. You want to make sure that your guy is solid and can remove all the threat. Obviously, there's all these upgrades that you can run. Whoops. So here we go. It's like Heroic Intuition. Again, bringing your thwart value up by 1 can be really broken with some of those characters. Think of Captain America when he plays that. What's it called again? Not For Justice. Heroic. What is that card? I forget the Justice card there. Fearless Determination. There you go. Fearless Determination. And then he has a thwart of 3, a 4, a 5, and then he can do this all day. And then, again, it's just so good. And then adding cards like Justice Serves, where you can ready again, just can make such a big difference in what you're doing. Again, some of the great cards that where's the CITT if you have one of those Guardian allies. Again, there's all these combos that you can play, even if, again, Earth's Mightiest Heroes works a lot with some of those heroes that, you know, can bring their thwart up super, super solid, just exhaust and then remove more threat, more threat, more threat. And it's very easy to do these nice little combos, even with like Blade and stuff like that. So I think Focus Justice, you want to be running these events that cost a little bit more, but that have a big impact right away on the game. And it just works. It just works. Oh yeah, let's not forget, you know, the main guy you want to be playing when you're playing multiplayer. You definitely want to be running this guy, Spidey Man. If you're playing a 4-player game, this guy for 5 removes 12 threat. He can actually remove up to 14 threat. So for 5, removing 14 is very, very efficient. It's basically a 1-for-3 ratio. So there you go, guys. So these are like the fun combos that you can kind of play. Cards that you don't really want to run are one ways or another, unless you have a good handle on the threat, and if you have like your allies set up for problem solvers and you have a big thwart turn coming, then go for it. But aside from that, try to stay away from that card in multiplayer. It can create more problems than it's worth sometimes. All right, guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Focus Justice strategy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you've tried this type of strategy before in multiplayer or in solo, and see how that worked for you. So guys, keep on playing Marvel Champions, and hope this video strategy will help you beat the game. Ciao, ciao.